do that?
Yes.
Okay. So I like to quote you an example, since we always follow design thinking approach. Am I right? So under that steps, why don't we split them up into several stages so that it will be helpful for us to reduce the disasters reduction risk factors. Okay, so that means that everywhere, wherever we go, when a disaster occurs or when a sudden impact occurs, the impact will be more for us, the time for us to take up to tackle that situation will take up more. So our main aim is to reduce that tackling up scenarios. So that's why disaster risk reduction came into existence. Okay. So under our first step, that is empathize. Am I right? So under which I like to quote you an example here. Okay. If there is going to be any flood that is going to happen here, what will happen here? Obviously, the water will get inside the entire building. So what I have to do? I have to get out of that place. And if the force of that flood is lower, then there is not going to be any kind of structural deteriorations. So if that's the case, we have to evaluate everything according to our DT orientation. So we can identify what is the problem and how we can rectify it. Is there anything that you like to quote under empathize for any disasters here? Yes.
So disasters such as floods, earthquakes, cyclones and droughts cause large-scale damage to life, property and the environment. In recent years, climate change has increased both the frequency and intensity of disasters across the world. Millions of people lose their homes, crops and even loved ones. Despite technological progress, one of the biggest challenges is that disasters are often unpredictable, and when they occur, communities are not fully prepared. Poor planning, lack of early warnings, limited evacuation facilities and the delayed rescue operations make the impact even worse. The role of disaster risk reduction or DRR is therefore very important. DRR is not only about responding after a disaster, but about reducing risk beforehand. It focuses on preparedness, prevention and mitigation.
Yes. So as far as she has covered whatever problem may be, either the disaster could be a flood or earthquake or anything. Whatever we have to do, we have to identify the proper part where we are going to suffer. So that's how the empathy part comes into existence. So under empathy, what she has said that whatever is going to be the major problem for us, and for this she has quoted us several problems. Am I right? So these all problems could be rectified if one thing has been given as a solution. So what could be the problem statement or define over here? Is there anything? Yes.
Today I will explain the role of GIS and information technology in disaster risk reduction. Disaster risk reduction means the efforts we take to reduce vulnerabilities and disaster risk. Here GIS and Geographic Information Systems and IT or information technology are very important because they are provide real-time data, mapping and communication support to manage disaster efficiency. First, GIS. It helps to audit mapping and the risk zoning. It is used to plan evacuation routes and safe shelters. After a disaster, it helps access damage using satellite images.
Okay. So as he has said, our main problem is going to be shelter. So if the shelter has been equipped for us properly, obviously the solution and the response time that is going to take up is going to be less. So that is very good. So since we have identified the problem and since we have come into conclusion that if we rectify this, obviously every other problem could be reduced. So we have come to a solution that this could be the matter. So our next step, what is going to be our next step now?
Ideation.
Yes, what it is?
So after defining the problems, the next step is ideation, exploring possible solutions. So this is where we imagine how technology can change disaster management. GIS or Geographic Information System is one of the most powerful tools. So it can create hazard maps that show flood-prone zones, cyclone tracks, or earthquake-sensitive regions. By overlaying population and infrastructure data, authorities can identify which areas are most vulnerable. So GIS can also design evacuation routes and show the location of shelters. For example, in cyclone-prone coastal areas, GIS helps decide the safest path for people to move to higher ground. This saves valuable time during emergencies.
On the information technology side, solutions include early warning systems with IT. Authorities can send SMS alerts, mobile app notification, and even social media warnings to reach people instantly.
Yes, very good. So the idea could be utilization of our recent technologies, the geographical information system, and the technologies that will help us to monitor them, right? So this will give us a proper solution. So how we are gonna make this into an existence? So obviously we have to do the next step, that is either we have to prototype it and then we have to test it. Yes? So how we can do it?
One solution is ideated. We move to prototypes real-world applications that show the impact of technology in disaster management. GIS and IT are already being used successfully in many areas. For instance, in flood management, GIS-based models predicts flood levels by combining rainfall, river flow, and topographic data. This process helps authorities on communities well in advance. In earthquakes, GIS helps identify fault lines and vulnerable infrastructure like bridges and buildings. This allows planners to construct and reduce damage before a disaster happens. Drones and satellites integrated with GIS are used after disaster to assess damage quickly. This reduces the time needed for relief planning. Prototypes also include the mobile apps that guide people during disaster by showing safe shelters, helplines, and emergency instructions. These practical applications demonstrate how GIS and IT are longer just concept but working. Tools improve preparedness, response, and recovery in disaster risk reduction.
Yes, very good. So as you have said, we can incorporate this with the help of GIS tool, and we also can incorporate the availability of the data and then maintaining them for monitoring it. Okay. So obviously, after prototyping it, we are not going to stop there. We have to test it. Yes. So is there any solution for us to test it?
Well, the final stage is testing and evaluate whether the solutions actually works in real life. Across the world, we can see many of the success stories. In the Kerala, flood mapping with GIS and the IoT-based coordinates saved thousands of lives. In 2008, in Japan, Yakka, early warning system sent alerts with the seconds, allowing people to take safe measurements before storm towers hit. Similarly, in cyclone zone in Odisha, India now records many lower capabilities because GIS and the IoT-based alerts helps in timing.
Yes, very good. Because we are prone to disaster, most probably because we are surrounded with the coastal areas and also we are prone to earthquake. Okay, so obviously we have taken up the previous class, as I have said, during earthquakes, the number of fatality is more when compared to that of the other disasters. So the three major disasters going to be earthquake, flood, and cyclone. So obviously we have covered this everything. What we have to, what I'm doing here is, we'll take up charge over here, we'll develop a map so that it will be helpful for us to monitor it and indicate the people as the test at the stage as Soumya has said. Okay, then we'll come to a solution that if this happens, this will could be taken care of and we can avoid most of the problems that will arise in the near future. Can you all do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let us stop our discussion over here. Tomorrow we'll meet up with another discussion.